The morning sky above Seoul was gray with ash. 3 months had passed since the alien ships had turned Earth's greatest cities into burning craters. 3 months since the Galactic Consortium had decided humanity was too dangerous to live. Yoon-woo Kim crawled through the subway tunnel, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The old Seoul Metro Line 2 had become his home, along with 200 other survivors hiding beneath the ruins of their city. Water dripped from broken pipes above him. The sound echoed in the empty tunnels like a clock counting down to nothing. He reached the communication room they had built in the old Gangnam station. Banks of salvaged electronics hummed quietly in the darkness. These machines were invisible to alien sensors. The invaders from space looked for radio waves and heat signatures. They never thought to scan for quantum particles. Any word from Busan? Hyunwoo asked Minho, the young engineer who maintained their quantum communication system. Nothing for 2 days, Minho said, not looking up from his screens, but Daegu reported in this morning. They have 400 people now. More survivors keep finding them. Hyunwoo nodded. The aliens thought they had killed everyone. Their orbital bombardment had been precise and devastating. Every major city had been hit. Millions had died in the first day, but humans were like cockroaches the aliens had learned too late. They survived in places no one expected. The tunnel shook slightly. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere above them, alien patrol ships swept the dead city with their sensors. They were looking for signs of life, electromagnetic signals, anything that showed humans still lived on Earth. They found nothing. The survivors had learned to hide completely. "Show me the global map," Hyunwoo said. Minho switched screens. Green dots appeared across a map of Earth. Each dot was a survivor group they had contact with. Seoul had 4 groups. Tokyo had 7. New York had 12. London had 8. Every major city that had been bombed now had humans living in its underground spaces like seeds waiting to grow. "How many total?" Hyunwoo asked. "About 40,000 confirmed. Maybe twice that number we haven't found yet. 40,000 out of 8 billion. The aliens had been very thorough, but they had made one mistake. They thought humans would give up after such a terrible loss. They thought the survivors would just wait to die quietly. They were wrong." Hyunwoo walked deeper into the tunnel system. The old subway had been expanded with new passages dug by hand. Emergency rooms, sleeping areas, workshops, and storage spaces stretched for kilometers under the city. It was a whole world hidden from the sky. He found Soo-min Park in her laboratory, 3 levels below the original subway. She had been a quantum physicist before the war. Now she was something else entirely. Her lab was filled with strange machines built from salvaged parts. Screens showed complex equations and molecular diagrams. "How is the project going?" Hyunwoo asked. Soo-min looked up from a device that hummed with blue energy. Her face was thin from months of poor food, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "Better than I hoped. We can now control atmospheric particles within a 50-meter radius. Yesterday I made it rain in Sector 7 while keeping Sector 8 completely dry. The aliens didn't notice. They think it's normal weather. Their sensors show natural humidity patterns. They don't understand that we're making the air itself listen to us." Hyunwoo watched as Soo-min typed commands into her computer. Outside her lab, the air itself began to shimmer slightly. Tiny particles invisible to the naked eye moved in patterns that followed her instructions. "How long before we can expand the range?" he asked. 6 months, maybe less. But I need more people, more labs. The work is too big for just me and my team. You'll have them. Every survivor group is working on this now. The engineers in London found a way to boost the signal. The team in Mumbai discovered how to make the particles remember their instructions longer. Soo-min smiled. It was the first real smile Hyunwoo had seen from anyone in months. "Good. The aliens think they destroyed human civilization. They're about to learn that they just made it stronger." Above them, the city was empty and silent. Broken buildings reached toward a sky filled with alien ships. The invaders flew back and forth over the ruins, making sure no humans moved in the streets. Their sensors showed exactly what they expected to see: a dead world with no signs of intelligent life. But in the tunnels below, 40,000 humans were building something new. They were learning to make the air itself into a weapon. They were preparing to show the galaxy that Earth was not finished. Hyunwoo returned to the communication room. Messages were coming in from survivor groups around the world. Each group had different skills, different resources, different pieces of the puzzle they were all building together. The team in Berlin had found a way to hide energy signatures from alien sensors. The survivors in Cairo had discovered how to use quantum entanglement for instant communication across any distance. The group hiding under Sydney had learned to make atmospheric particles carry information like tiny biological computers. "Sir," Minho called out, "we're getting a priority message from the orbital group." Hyunwoo hurried to the communication station. The orbital group was their most secret project. While the aliens thought all humans were dead or hiding underground, some had actually escaped Earth during the bombardment. These survivors were living in abandoned space stations and mining facilities throughout the solar system. Do-Hyun Lee's face appeared on the screen. He had been a pilot for the Korean Space Agency before the war. Now he commanded a small fleet of hidden human ships moving through the asteroid belt. "Hyunwoo, we've made progress," Do-Hyun said. His transmission was delayed and encrypted, bouncing through quantum relays to avoid alien detection. "We've captured 3 alien supply ships. Their technology is more advanced than we thought, but also more predictable." "What did you learn?" "Their ships rely completely on electronic systems. No manual backups, no mechanical controls. Everything is computer-controlled. If their electronics fail, they're helpless." Hyunwoo felt excitement building in his chest. "What are you thinking?" "Sumin's atmospheric control project. If she can affect electronics through particle manipulation, we might be able to disable their ships. All of them. How long do you need?" "Give us 6 months. We're building something up here, something the aliens won't see coming until it's too late." The transmission ended. Hyunwoo sat back in his chair thinking about the future. 3 months ago, humanity had seemed finished. The aliens had hit Earth with enough firepower to destroy entire continents. They had killed billions of people. They had reduced human civilization to scattered groups hiding in holes. But they had also made a crucial mistake. They had left the survivors alone, thinking they were too few and too broken to matter. They had given humanity time to plan, to organize, to discover new technologies they had never imagined before. The aliens had tried to put out a fire by scattering the embers. Now those embers were growing into something much more dangerous than the original flame. "Minho," Hyunwoo said, "send a message to all groups. Tell them we're moving to the next phase. It's time to show the galaxy what happens when you try to make humans extinct." "What's the message?" "The sky remembers everything, and soon, it will speak with a human voice." In tunnels and bunkers across the Earth, 40,000 survivors read the message and began the final preparations for their war against the stars. The aliens thought Earth would grieve quietly and fade away. They had never been more wrong about anything in their long history. Above the ruins of Seoul, alien patrol ships continued their endless flights over a seemingly dead world. Their sensors detected nothing unusual. No electromagnetic signals, no heat signatures, no signs of life. Everything was exactly as it should be on a conquered planet. 3 decks below the surface, Soo-Min Park smiled as she watched her atmospheric particles dance in perfect formation. The aliens would learn soon enough that humans didn't just survive disasters, they adapted to them. They evolved because of them, and sometimes they became something the universe had never seen before. The sky above Earth was about to become human. The aliens just didn't know it yet. Admiral Korvac stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth turn slowly below him. 6 months had passed since the consortium's bombardment, and the planet looked exactly as it should. Dead, silent, and peaceful. His sensors showed no radio transmissions, no heat signatures from cities, no signs that the aggressive human species had survived their necessary extinction. The bridge crew of his Veilthron vessel worked quietly at their stations. They monitored the dead world below with the dedication of scientists studying a successful experiment. Earth had become a cautionary tale, proof that even the most dangerous species could be dealt with humanely when the galaxy's safety was at stake. "Admiral," called his sensor officer, "we're detecting unusual atmospheric activity over the former human settlement designated Seoul." Korvax moved to the sensor station. The display showed swirling cloud formations that seemed to pulse with strange rhythms. "Analysis?" "Unknown, sir. The patterns appear natural, but they're more organized than typical weather systems. It could be lingering effects from our bombardment 6 months ago. Monitor it closely. Any sign of artificial electromagnetic activity?" "None detected, Admiral. All readings show natural atmospheric phenomena." Korvax nodded and returned to his command chair. The humans had been clever creatures, more advanced than many species when they reached space. But they had also been aggressive, territorial, and unwilling to accept the consortium's guidance toward galactic peace. The bombardment had been regrettable but necessary. Far below the Admiral's ship in the tunnels under Seoul, Su-Min Park watched her atmospheric control systems with growing excitement. What the aliens saw as natural weather was actually humanity's first successful test of large-scale particle manipulation. She had spent 3 months expanding her laboratory's range from 50 meters to 50 kilometers. "Jin-A, are you seeing this?" She called to her assistant Jin-A Choi, who had been an atmospheric scientist before the war. "The particle density is holding stable across the entire test zone," Jin-A replied, checking her instruments. "We're maintaining control over a circular area 30 kilometers wide. The aliens can't detect anything unusual because we're using their own atmospheric reading standards against them." Su-Min smiled as she watched her screens. Millions of atmospheric particles were moving in perfect coordination, invisible to alien sensors but completely under human control. "How many other cities are ready for this test?" Woojin reports that underground teams in 12 cities have built the necessary equipment. "They're waiting for your signal." Woo Jin-Han was their global network coordinator, a former telecommunications engineer who had designed their quantum communication system. From his base under the ruins of Busan, he maintained contact with survivor groups on every continent. "Send the signal," Su-Min said. "Let's see if we can make the entire planet's atmosphere dance." Around the world, human survivors in hidden underground facilities activated their atmospheric control systems. In the tunnels under London, former Cambridge researchers manipulated air particles above the Thames. Beneath the ruins of New York, survivors who had once worked at IBM made the atmosphere above Manhattan shimmer with invisible energy. Admiral Korvax noticed the changes immediately. "Sensor officer, report." "Sir, we're detecting unusual atmospheric patterns over multiple former human settlements. Cloud formations over Tokyo, electromagnetic anomalies above New York, pressure variations over London. All readings suggest natural phenomena, but the timing is curious." "Curious how?" "They're all happening simultaneously, Admiral." "Across multiple continents," Korvax frowned. Natural weather patterns didn't coordinate across the globe, but his sensors showed no artificial signals, no technology, no signs of intelligent activity. "Could this be some kind of delayed effect from our bombardment?" "Possible, sir. We did use significant atmospheric disruption weapons. The planet's weather systems might still be stabilizing." The Admiral accepted this explanation because it made sense. The alternative, that somehow the scattered human survivors were causing coordinated atmospheric effects across the entire planet, was impossible. The humans had no orbital technology, no global communication systems, no way to organize such a massive undertaking. He was wrong on every count. In space beyond Neptune, Do-Hyun Lee commanded a fleet of 7 salvaged human ships. They moved through the outer solar system using minimal power, communicating only through quantum-entangled particles that alien sensors couldn't detect. His crews had been working for months on a project that would change everything. "Sung-ho, what's the status on the atmospheric processors?" Do-Hyun asked his chief engineer Sung-ho Yoon, who had been an astronaut before becoming a refugee. "We've completed construction on 50 units, Sung-ho replied from the cargo bay of their converted mining ship. Each one can seed atmospheric control particles across a spherical area, roughly the size of Earth's moon. Do-Hyun looked at the star map on his command screen. Red dots marked the locations of every major consortium fleet in the solar system. Blue dots showed human survivor groups on Earth and hidden bases throughout the asteroid belt. "How long before we can deploy them?" "The processors are ready now, but once we activate them, the aliens will know we exist. We'll lose the element of surprise. Not if Su-Min's ground teams are ready to coordinate with us. The aliens will think it's all natural atmospheric activity until it's too late to stop." Back on Earth, Hyunwoo Kim received confirmation that survivor groups in 43 cities had successfully activated their atmospheric control systems. The planet's sky was slowly becoming responsive to human commands, though the changes were too subtle for alien sensors to recognize as artificial. "How many people are we coordinating now?" he asked Minho in their Seoul command center. 87,000 confirmed survivors across all continents, maybe twice that number in groups we haven't contacted yet. The underground networks are growing faster than we expected. Hyunwoo studied the global map showing green dots for every active survivor group. 3 months ago, they had thought 40,000 survivors was impressive. Now they were approaching 200,000, with more groups establishing contact every day. The aliens keep underestimating us, he said. They think we're broken, scattered, waiting to die. They don't understand that humans get stronger when we're cornered. Above them, Sumin's atmospheric tests were expanding in scope. The sky above Seoul now responded to her commands like a giant invisible machine. She could create rain clouds, disperse fog, even generate small electromagnetic pulses that looked like natural lightning. "Jinne, I want to try something bigger," she said. "What if we attempt to affect an alien patrol ship?" Her assistant looked nervous. "If we damage one of their vessels, they'll know we're here. Not damage, just interfere slightly. Make their sensors show false readings. Create a small malfunction they'll blame on equipment failure." They watched their screens as a consortium patrol ship flew over the ruins of Seoul, scanning the empty streets below. Sumin activated her atmospheric control system and sent a concentrated burst of charged particles toward the alien vessel. The ship's sensors flickered briefly. For 30 seconds, its navigation system showed readings that didn't match its actual position. Then everything returned to normal. "The pilot will report a minor technical glitch," Sumin said with satisfaction. "Nothing serious enough to investigate, but enough to prove we can affect their technology." Admiral Korvax received the patrol ship's report an hour later. "Minor sensor malfunction over the former Seoul area," his communications officer announced. "All systems return to normal function. The pilot requests permission to run diagnostics." "Granted. Log it as routine equipment maintenance." The Admiral didn't think about the malfunction again. Space was harsh on electronics and minor glitches were common. He had no reason to connect a 30-second sensor error with the atmospheric anomalies his ships had been detecting. But in the tunnels below Seoul, Hyunwoo, Sumin, and their teams celebrated their first successful attack on an alien vessel. It had been tiny, insignificant, almost invisible, but it proved that Earth's atmosphere could be turned into a weapon that alien technology couldn't detect or defend against. "Send a message to all groups," Hyunwoo told Minho. "Tell them we're ready for Phase 2. It's time to show the aliens that Earth's sky has teeth." Around the world, human survivors read the message and began preparing their atmospheric control systems for more aggressive testing. The aliens had made Earth's atmosphere their enemy when they bombed human cities from orbit. Soon they would learn that the sky itself remembered every explosion, every death, every act of cruelty they had committed against humanity. And the sky was very, very angry. Admiral Korvax looked down at Earth one more time before retiring to his quarters. The planet appeared peaceful and dead, exactly as it should after a successful extermination campaign. He felt satisfaction knowing that the galaxy was safer with the aggressive human species removed from it. He had no idea that far below his ship, 200,000 human survivors were turning his own atmosphere against him. The sky that looked so peaceful was actually watching him, learning about his technology, preparing to strike back. The humans hadn't been conquered. They had been awakened, and they were about. The first alien ship to experience serious problems was a consortium scout vessel, surveying the ruins of Tokyo. Commander Zefek was conducting routine atmospheric analysis when his navigation system suddenly went haywire. His ship began spinning, in slow circles, completely unable to determine which direction was up. "Engineering report," Zefek called out as his crew struggled with their malfunctioning controls. "All systems show normal function, Commander," his engineer replied, confusion clear in his voice. "But our navigation sensors are receiving impossible readings. According to our instruments, we're simultaneously at 12 different locations." The malfunction lasted 15 minutes. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, everything returned to normal. The ship's systems functioned perfectly, showing no signs of damage or interference. Admiral Korvax read the incident report with growing concern. This was the 7th technical malfunction in 2 weeks, all occurring when consortium ships flew too close to Earth's atmosphere. Navigation failures, sensor errors, communication blackouts, always temporary, always inexplicable. Pattern analysis suggests the malfunctions occur within 2,000 kilometers of the planetary surface, his intelligence officer reported. Beyond that distance, all systems function normally. Theory? Unknown, Admiral. Our technicians find no evidence of equipment failure, no signs of electromagnetic interference, no indication of hostile action. Korvax studied the map showing incident locations. Every malfunction had occurred above areas that had once been major human cities. Could the bombardment have created some kind of lingering atmospheric effect? Possible, sir. We did use significant energy weapons. Perhaps we created electromagnetic anomalies that interfere with our technology. The Admiral accepted this explanation because the alternative was impossible. The scattered human survivors couldn't possibly coordinate attacks across the entire planet. They had no orbital capability, no advanced technology, no way to affect ships in space. He was wrong about everything. 3,000 meters below the ruins of Tokyo, Mi-Young Kang monitored her atmospheric control systems with fierce satisfaction. She had been a satellite engineer before the war, responsible for maintaining Korea's orbital communication network. Now she used that knowledge to turn Earth's atmosphere into a weapon against alien electronics. Yoonji, how are the particle density levels? She asked her biochemist colleague Yoonji Song. Stable across the entire grid, Yoonji replied, checking her readouts. We're maintaining control over atmospheric particles from ground level to low orbit. The alien ship that just experienced navigation failure flew directly through our highest concentration zone. Mi-Young smiled as she watched her screens. Months of careful work had finally paid off. She could now program atmospheric particles to respond differently to human and alien technology. Human electronics worked normally, but alien systems experienced cascading failures when exposed to her modified atmosphere. How many other cities are ready for coordinated action? She asked. Jae-sung reports that 37 underground teams have successfully created interference zones above their cities, Yoonji said. We can now disrupt alien vessels across most of the planet's major population centers. Jae-sung Lim was their military strategist, a former South Korean army colonel who coordinated defensive operations from his base under the ruins of Daegu. He had spent months studying captured alien technology, learning their weaknesses and vulnerabilities. Send a message to all groups, Mi-Young said. Tell them it's time for synchronized testing. Let's see how the aliens react when every one of their ships starts malfunctioning at the same time. The message went out through quantum communication channels to survivor groups around the world. In London, former Cambridge scientists prepared their atmospheric interference systems. In New York, survivors who had once worked for NASA activated particle manipulation devices. In Mumbai, underground engineers who had studied monsoon patterns prepared to turn weather itself into a weapon. Admiral Korvax was reviewing fleet deployment reports when chaos erupted across his command center. Admiral, his communications officer called out, we're receiving distress signals from patrol ships across the entire Earth system, multiple simultaneous equipment failures. How many ships affected? All of them, sir. Every vessel within 3,000 kilometers of the planetary surface is reporting navigation failures, sensor blackouts, or communication errors. Korvax moved to the tactical display. Red warning. Indicators showed the positions of 43 consortium ships, all experiencing technical problems at exactly the same time. This can't be equipment failure, not simultaneously across the entire fleet. Unknown energy signature detected planet-wide, his sensor officer reported. It appears to be some kind of atmospheric electromagnetic effect, but our instruments can't identify the source. For the first time since the bombardment began, Admiral Korvax felt genuine concern. Coordinated equipment failures across an entire fleet suggested hostile action. But their sensors detected no artificial technology, no signs of intelligent opposition. All ships maintain current positions but increase distance from planetary surface, he ordered. Set minimum safe distance at 5,000 kilometers. As the consortium fleet retreated to higher orbit, the equipment malfunctions gradually stopped. Ships that had been spinning helplessly regained navigation control. Communication systems restored full function. Sensors began providing accurate readings again. Sir, his intelligence officer said quietly, preliminary analysis suggests the interference was somehow connected to the planet's atmospheric particles, as if the air itself was programmed to disrupt our technology. That's impossible, Atmospheric particles can't be programmed. They're just molecules of gas. Yes, sir. That's what makes this so disturbing. In the tunnels below Seoul, Hyunwoo, Kim watched reports from survivor groups around the world. Every atmospheric interference test had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. Alien ships were now afraid to approach Earth's surface, retreating to high orbit whenever their technology began malfunctioning. "How are our orbital friends doing?" he asked Minho. Do-hyun reports excellent progress. His fleet has captured 7 more alien supply ships and reverse-engineered their technology. He says he's ready to begin Phase 3 of the orbital operation. Hyunwoo nodded with satisfaction. While the aliens focused on the atmospheric interference, humanity's secret space fleet continued growing stronger in the outer solar system. Do-hyun's ships were capturing alien vessels, studying their technology, and preparing for the final phase of their counterattack. "Tell him we'll be ready to coordinate ground and orbital operations within 2 weeks, Hyunwoo said. "How many survivors are we working with now?" "Over 300,000 confirmed. The underground networks keep growing. Every day, more groups establish contact and join our coordination system. 300,000 humans working together in perfect secrecy, turning Earth's atmosphere into a planetary defense system." The aliens had tried to reduce humanity to scattered refugees hiding in caves. Instead, they had created a unified global resistance with capabilities no species had ever imagined. In her laboratory deep below Tokyo, Mi Young Kang was already working on the next phase of atmospheric weaponization. Her screen showed complex molecular diagrams and particle manipulation equations that would have seemed like magic to scientists just 1 year earlier. "Yunji, I think we can extend our range beyond Earth's atmosphere," she said. "If we can seed our programmed particles into space, we might be able to affect alien ships at any distance." "How?" "Solar wind carries atmospheric particles throughout the entire solar system. If we can program those particles to maintain their instructions over longer distances, we could turn the whole solar system into a human-controlled zone." Yoon-ji looked up from her biochemistry equipment with excitement. "You're talking about making space itself hostile to alien technology." "Exactly. Imagine if every alien ship in the solar system started experiencing equipment failures simultaneously. They'd have to leave completely or face total technological breakdown." The idea was ambitious beyond belief. But then, everything humanity had accomplished in the past 9 months would have seemed impossible before the war began. Desperation and genius had combined to push human science decades ahead in just a few months. Admiral Korvax called an emergency meeting of his senior staff. The situation was becoming untenable. His fleet couldn't approach Earth without risking equipment failure, but they couldn't abandon their monitoring mission either. "Recommendations?" he asked his assembled officers. "We could request additional ships from the consortium," his tactical officer suggested. "If we had overwhelming numbers, equipment failures might be manageable." "Or we could attempt to bombard the planet again," his weapons officer said. "If atmospheric effects are causing our problems, we could try to disrupt the atmosphere itself." Korvax considered both options. More ships would take months to arrive. Another bombardment would require approval from the Consortium Council, which was unlikely to authorize additional destruction on a planet they considered already conquered. "Sir," his science officer spoke up hesitantly, "there is another possibility. What if the atmospheric interference isn't a natural phenomenon? Explain." "What if?" Admiral Korvax's worst fears were confirmed when his rescue fleet suffered the same fate as the ships they came to help. 3 consortium cruisers approached Earth to assist vessels stranded in orbit, only to find their own systems failing the moment they entered the planet's atmospheric influence zone. "Admiral, this is impossible," his chief engineer reported from the rescue fleet's flagship. "Our ships are completely dead. Navigation, propulsion, life support, everything electronic has shut down. But our crews are unharmed, and somehow we're receiving this communication." Korvax stared at the tactical display showing 57 disabled consortium ships drifting helplessly in Earth's orbital space. They formed a growing ring of technological wreckage around a planet that was supposed to be conquered and empty. "How are you able to communicate if all electronics are dead?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. Our communication systems show complete failure. but we can somehow still transmit and receive messages. It's as if something is selectively allowing certain functions while blocking others. The Admiral felt ice forming in his veins. Selective electronic interference suggested intelligence behind the phenomenon. It meant something was making deliberate choices about which alien systems to disable and which to allow. All ships, maintain maximum distance from the planetary surface, he ordered. No vessel approaches within 10,000 kilometers without direct authorization. But it was too late for containment. The effect was spreading. On the bridge of the stranded cruiser ISV Dominator, Captain Rethek made an impossible discovery. His ship's electronics were completely dead, but when he looked out the observation windows, he saw lights moving in patterns across Earth's nighttime surface. Security Chief Valdek, are you seeing this? He called to his second-in-command. Sir, those appear to be artificial lights, organized in geometric patterns. They're definitely not natural phenomena, but our sensors detect no electromagnetic signatures from the planet. No radio transmissions, no heat sources, no signs of technology. Sir, I think something wants us to see those lights. Captain Rethek was right. 3,000 meters below the ruins of Seoul, Bong Suo was coordinating the most audacious communication attempt in human history. He had been a communications specialist for Korean intelligence before the war. Now he was preparing to speak directly to the aliens who had tried to exterminate his species. Tae-hyun, are all surface teams in position? He asked. Tae-hyun Nam, who was leading the first human surface operation since the bombardment, confirmed readiness from his position in the ruins above. We have light arrays active in 43 cities worldwide. The aliens can't miss the pattern we're creating. The pattern was simple but unmistakable. Mathematical sequences that could only be artificial. Prime numbers, geometric progressions, the Fibonacci sequence, all displayed in coordinated light patterns across Earth's surface. It was humanity's way of saying, we're here, we're intelligent, and we want to talk. Hi Won, what's the status on our translation systems? Bongsu asked. Shae-won Kim, coordinator of the Global Resistance Network, replied from her base under the ruins of Busan. We've been monitoring alien communications for months. Our quantum computers have successfully decoded their languages. We can speak to them. The moment Admiral Korvax had been dreading arrived when his communications system activated without authorization. A voice spoke in perfect Velthran, the language of his species. Admiral Korvax of the Galactic Consortium vessel Eternal Justice. This is Bong Suo speaking for the surviving humans of Earth. We wish to discuss terms. The bridge fell silent. Every officer stared at the communication console in shock. The voice was calm, educated, and spoke their language with perfect pronunciation and grammar. This is impossible, Korvax whispered. Our sensors show no artificial communications from the planet. No technology capable of reaching our ships. Admiral, the human voice continued, your ships are disabled, but your crews are safe. This is a demonstration of our capabilities, not an attack. We can restore your vessel's functions at any time. But first we need to talk. You're dead, Korvax said, finding his voice. We confirmed the success of our bombardment. Your civilization was destroyed. Your bombardment killed 8 billion humans, Bong Suo replied. But it didn't kill humanity. We survived. We adapted. And we learned. On the tactical display, new information began appearing. Detailed maps of consortium ship positions, technical specifications of alien vessels, even personal files on crew members. Information that no human should have been able to access. How do you have classified consortium data? Korvax demanded. We've been listening to your communications for months, Admiral, learning your languages, studying your technology, understanding your weaknesses. You thought we were too primitive to threaten you. You were wrong. In space beyond Jupiter, Do-hyun Lee watched the confrontation unfold from his hidden command ship. His fleet had grown to 23 vessels, all captured from the aliens and converted for human use. The orbital operation was ready for its final phase. Signal from Earth Command, his communications officer reported. Bong-su confirms the aliens are ready to listen. We're authorized to begin atmospheric seeding. Do-hyun nodded and activated his fleet's atmospheric processors. Invisible to alien sensors, 50 devices began releasing programmed particles into the solar wind. Within hours, Earth's atmospheric control would extend throughout the entire solar system. Begin deployment, he ordered. Let's show them what happens when you make humans angry. Admiral Korvax watched in horror as his ship's sensors began detecting atmospheric anomalies near Mars, Jupiter, even the outer planets. The strange particle effects that had disabled his Earth fleet were spreading throughout the solar system. "Admiral," his science officer reported, "we're detecting the same atmospheric interference patterns near every major planet. Whatever is causing the effect on Earth is now spreading to other worlds. That's impossible. Atmospheric particles can't travel between planets in organized patterns. Sir, they can if something is actively seeding them. If the humans have some kind of orbital capability we don't know about." The idea was terrifying. If humans had survived orbital bombardment and developed space-based technology, the implications went far beyond Earth. They could potentially threaten consortium operations throughout the galaxy. "This is Admiral Korvax," the human voice said again. "May I call you Admiral? We've learned much about consortium ranks and protocols. What do you want?" Korvax asked. "Initially, we wanted to be left alone to develop in peace. Your species decided that was impossible. You bombed our cities, killed our families, and tried to exterminate us completely. Now we want justice. You were classified as a dangerous, aggressive species. The bombardment was necessary for galactic security. Admiral, in the months since your bombardment, how many consortium ships have we destroyed?" Korvax checked his casualty reports. "None." "How many alien crew members have we killed?" "None." "How many of your people have we tortured, experimented on, or treated cruelly?" "None." "Then tell me, Admiral, which species is actually aggressive?" The question hung in the silence of the bridge. Korvax realized that despite having the capability to destroy his entire fleet, the humans had chosen only to disable their ships. Despite having months to plan revenge, they had harmed no one. "What are your terms?" he asked quietly. "First, immediate cessation of all military action against human populations. Second, withdrawal of all consortium forces from the solar system. Third, formal recognition of human sovereignty over Earth and our other colonies. I don't have authority to agree to those terms." "Then contact someone who does. Because, Admiral, this is what happens when you try to make humans extinct. We become stronger, smarter, and more dangerous than you ever imagined. Your choice is simple. Negotiate with us as equals, or learn exactly how dangerous we've become." To emphasize the point, every disabled consortium ship suddenly had its life support systems restored to full function. Food replicators activated. Environmental controls optimized. It was a clear demonstration that humanity could help or harm alien crews with equal ease. "You have 24 hours to establish communication with consortium leadership," Bongsu-O continued. "After that, we begin expanding our atmospheric control to other solar systems. Any consortium ship that enters human-protected space will experience the same electronic failures you've seen here." The communication ended, leaving Admiral Korvax staring at a tactical display that showed his fleet completely helpless in orbit around a supposedly dead world. Below him, Taehyun Nam led the first human surface teams to emerge from their underground shelters in 9 months. They walked openly through the ruins of Seoul, no longer hiding from alien sensors. Above them, the sky shimmered with barely visible energy patterns that protected them from any orbital attack. "How does it feel to see sunlight again?" Haiwan Kim asked through their communication system. "Like coming back to life," Taehyun replied. "The aliens thought they buried us. Instead, they just gave us time to grow stronger underground around the world." Similar scenes played out as hundreds of thousands of human survivors emerged from their hidden shelters. They had spent 9 months transforming Earth's atmosphere into a planetary defense system. Now they were ready to show the galaxy what. 1 year after the bombardment that was supposed to end humanity, Admiral Korvax walked through the rebuilt streets of Seoul as a guest of the species he had tried to exterminate. The city was different now. Buildings that gleamed with strange materials, streets that hummed with invisible energy, and above it all, a sky that shimmered with colors that had never existed in nature. Kyungmin Yang, humanity's first ambassador to what was now called the Reformed Galactic Council, walked beside him. She had been a diplomat before the war, assigned to Earth's unsuccessful first contact mission with the consortium. Now she represented a species that had become the most influential power in the galaxy. "The reconstruction is remarkable," Korvax admitted, looking up at buildings that seemed to defy gravity and physics. "How did you accomplish so much in just 1 year? When you have to rebuild everything from nothing, you don't bother recreating the old limitations," Kyungmin replied. We used the time underground to reimagine what human civilization could become. They passed a group of children playing in a park where human and alien youth learned together. A young Velthran girl was teaching human children how to speak her language, while human kids showed alien visitors how to program atmospheric particles with simple hand gestures. The children adapt quickly, Korvax observed. Children always do. It's the adults who struggle with change. Kyung-min led him to the Seoul Atmospheric Sciences Center, a building that rose into the sky like a crystal tree. Inside, Daewon Seo, director of Earth's Atmospheric Defense Network, monitored screens showing particle control systems that now extended throughout human space. Admiral Korvax, Daewon said without turning from his displays, I understand you're curious about our defensive capabilities. The consortium needs to understand the scope of your influence, Korvax replied carefully. Daewon gestured to a massive holographic display showing the solar system. Blue zones indicated areas under human atmospheric control. The zones extended far beyond Earth, encompassing Mars, the asteroid belt, and reaching toward Jupiter. Every major shipping lane between here and Alpha Centauri now passes through human-protected space, Daewon explained. Any vessel, consortium, Velthran, or otherwise that enters these zones without authorization will experience complete electronic failure within minutes. How is that possible? Atmospheric particles can't survive in deep space. They can when we program them to replicate themselves using stellar radiation and cosmic dust. Every star system humanity reaches becomes part of our defensive network. Korvax studied the display with growing unease. The blue zones were expanding continuously, following human exploration ships as they spread throughout the galaxy. Within a generation, most of known space would be under human atmospheric control. What happens to species that refuse to accept your protection? He asked. Young Suk-jeon, leader of the Human Reconciliation Committee, joined the conversation. She had been a social worker before the war, helping human communities adapt to first contact with alien species. Now she helped alien species adapt to humanity's new role in the galaxy. We don't force protection on anyone, she said gently, but we do control access to the most efficient travel routes. Species that want to use human-protected shipping lanes must agree to certain standards. What standards? No aggressive military action against civilian populations. No attempts at genocide or species extermination. No slavery or forced labor. Basic principles of galactic civilization. Korvax felt a chill. You're describing economic control over the entire galaxy. We're describing peace enforcement, Kyung-min corrected. The consortium tried to create peace through threat of military force. We create peace by making war economically impossible. They took him to the memorial chamber, where the names of the 8 billion humans killed in the bombardment were displayed in columns of light that stretched toward the ceiling. The names appeared and disappeared in endless rotation, each one visible for exactly 1 second. This is why we can never forget, Young-suk said quietly. 8 billion people died because the galaxy decided humanity was too dangerous to exist. We want to make sure nothing like this ever happens again to any species. Even to us? Korvax asked. Even to the species that tried to exterminate you? Especially to you, Kyung-min replied. Revenge would make us into the thing you thought we were. Justice means protecting everyone, even former enemies. In the harbor below Seoul, alien cargo ships waited in long lines to receive atmospheric processing permits that would allow them to travel safely through human space. The permits were free, but they came with monitoring systems that prevented the ships from carrying weapons or engaging in hostile activities. Your people are effectively prisoners in their own galaxy, Korvax observed. Your people are effectively protected from their own worst impulses, Young-suk corrected. How many wars has the galaxy seen since we implemented atmospheric control? Korvax considered the question. In the years since humanity's emergence, galactic conflict had virtually disappeared, not because of peace treaties or diplomatic agreements, but because no species could wage war without access to the shipping lanes humanity now controlled. None, he admitted. How many genocides? None. How many slave raids, territorial conquests, or aggressive expansions? None. Then tell me, Admiral, is the galaxy safer or more dangerous with humans in control of atmospheric defense? They walked to the observation deck where Soo-min Park was conducting her daily sky calibration. She had become Director of Global Atmospheric Sciences, overseeing the network that had grown from her small laboratory into a planetary defense system. "Show him the current range," Kyung-min requested. Sumin activated a display that showed Earth's atmospheric influence extending in a sphere around the planet. The sphere pulsed with energy that reached past the Moon, past Mars toward the outer planets. "We can now affect atmospheric conditions within a radius of 4 astronomical units," she explained. "Any ship entering that space becomes dependent on our atmospheric systems for navigation, life support, and propulsion." "You've made yourselves indispensable," Korvax realized. "We've made ourselves irreplaceable," Sumin corrected. "There's a difference. Indispensable means people need you. Irreplaceable means the galaxy can't function without you." As if to emphasize the point, a consortium merchant vessel appeared in the display, requesting permission to enter Earth's atmospheric zone. The ship carried medical supplies for a plague outbreak on a Valthran colony world. "Permission granted," Sumin said. "Priority routing through the Phobos checkpoint. Estimated travel time reduced by 30% through atmospheric assist." The ship's journey, which would have taken weeks through normal space, was completed in days using humanity's atmospheric control network. The medical supplies reached the plague victims in time to save thousands of lives. "We don't just control atmospheric access," Young-suk explained. "We optimize it. Ships traveling through human space move faster, use less fuel, and experience fewer technical problems. We've made the galaxy more efficient. At the cost of freedom." "At the cost of the freedom to commit atrocities," Kyung-min said firmly. "The same freedom the consortium used to justify bombing our cities." Admiral Korvax spent his final day on Earth in the rebuilt Han River district, where humans and aliens worked together in research facilities studying atmospheric science. The collaboration was voluntary but inevitable. Any species that wanted to understand or improve atmospheric control had to work with humanity. "You've won," he told Kyung-min as they watched sunset paint the sky in impossible colors. "Not through conquest or force, but by making yourselves necessary to galactic civilization." "We didn't want to win," she replied. "We wanted to survive. But when you try to exterminate a species, you shouldn't be surprised if they evolve beyond your ability to control them." The sky above them shifted from sunset colors to a gentle blue glow that had become Earth's signature atmospheric pattern. It was beautiful, peaceful, and utterly artificial, a reminder that humanity had transformed the planet's atmosphere into something that had never existed before. "What happens now?" Korvax asked. "Now the galaxy learns to live in peace whether it wants to or not," Kyung-min said. "Our children will grow up in a universe where genocide is impossible, where aggressive war is economically unfeasible, and where every species has to consider the consequences of cruelty. And if a species refuses to accept these conditions, then they're free to travel through non-human space at their own risk. But they'll find that most of the galaxy prefers the safety and efficiency of atmospheric-controlled routes. Above them, the sky pulsed with gentle rhythms that carried information across the solar system. Human settlements on Mars, Europa, and Titan communicated through atmospheric signals that traveled faster than light. The asteroid belt mining stations used atmospheric pressure waves to move cargo between facilities. The children play in parks where former enemies teach each other languages, Kyung-min continued. Merchant ships carry goods across the galaxy more safely and efficiently than ever before. Medical supplies reach plague victims in time to save lives. Scientific knowledge spreads freely through atmospheric communication networks, at the cost of military independence, in exchange for universal safety. "Tell me, Admiral, is that..."